we've received a number of requests to review Bul Armory pistols. Well, look no further. This is the Bul Armory Tac Pro. So we'll cover everything about the Tac Pro. I've shot this thing a lot already before this review. We'll shoot it here on the range. You guys will get to see it. But first, we'll cover all the specs, the details, and everything about it, and some of the nuances that make the Bul Armory pistols a little bit different than what you find in a double stack 1911 or a 2011 pistol. If you're new here to the channel, though, please subscribe. Like the video, share it with your friends. When you share the video to your friends or you share it across social media, helps drive the algorithms and ultimately helps promote our channel. Talking about this pistol though, what sets the Bul Armory, let's say double stack 1911s or 2011s apart from what you find from, let's just say, Staccato? Well, starting off with the grip and the magazines. Now the grip itself is actually a little bit smaller in circumference than what you get with a standard Staccato. In addition to that, there is an undercut on the trigger guard, which is noticeable, and you can really feel it when you're actually gripping this pistol. But the undercut on the trigger guard allows you to get a higher grip on the pistol. And then ultimately, when you get your two-handed grip, there's another undercut on the trigger guard where you can ultimately get a nice two-handed grip that's high, and you get a very good purchase on the pistol. The rest of the grip, on the front here, you have LPI checkering, and then kind of like a stippled granular texture here on the side panels, and then the back mainspring housing area is an LPI checkering as well. They look nearly identical on the LPI checkering, but on the bottom then, you do have a mag well. Now the mag well that comes with the pistol is removable, and in fact, we'll talk about some of the things you get in the case with the pistol when you buy it. So you get the Bul Armory case, you get 4 magazines, which we'll talk about. You're going to get a brass bore brush, nylon bore brush, and then a jag bore brush type deal with it. You have another little Ziploc. Within that little Ziploc there's your owner's manual and some, let's say, paperwork with it. You do get an 11-pound recoil spring, so therefore if you feel like you need to change out the recoil spring for something lighter or heavier, you can do that. It comes out of the box with the 11-pounder. Now with the one that's in the pistol, I've shot 124 grain, 135, 115, 147, no issues. So for me, it's been absolutely fine. Something that really sets these apart from what you see with Staccato, or let's say the Springfield Prodigy, or something else in the, like, let's say, that $2,000 range, is the fact that this comes with all the optics plates that you need to mount popular optics on the market. So to mount a DeltaPoint Pro, an RMR, something like an RMSC footprint, you get everything you need inside the box to do that. You don't have to go buy anything extra. It comes with the plates with the BAO optic system here from Bul Armory. When you actually take it off, it's a very tight fit. In fact, the plate that comes with it is an aluminum plate. It's thin on purpose, so it ultimately allows the optic to sit down further into the optic footprint and then get more screw or thread engagement as you're actually screwing it on there. Now with the Defender ST, it had screws that come in the box. Now talking to Bul Armory a little bit at SHOT Show and things like that, they've told us that they designed the optics cut system itself and the plates so that whatever screws ship with the optic, if it's an RMR, because I tried an RMR on here, whatever comes with them ultimately go into the holes and fit in the holes to actually fit the optic and get plenty of thread engagement to be a robust and reliable system. Like I said, the plate is very low in there, and it sits a lot lower than what you find on like the AOS system on the Prodigy, and also what you find on the Staccato. And the big difference you find with the Staccato versus this, you get all the plates. You're not paying anything extra, right? So this pistol, as you see it sitting here, is $2,450, so it's $2,450, right? It's a lot of money. No doubt about that. It's not meant to be a cheap pistol, and it's fit very well, but at least when you spend that much for this pistol, you get 4 magazines, okay, with the +2 base pads on them. You get additional base pads if you don't want these metal ones. You can go and get those. They're 20-round capacity. It's really not that much you can ask for, right? Now, the magazines themselves, they are proprietary, okay? Glock mags are proprietary. Sig mags, proprietary. Smith & Wesson, proprietary. Before anybody else made a double stack 1911 or 2011, Staccato mags or STI mags were proprietary, right? So the complaint or the argument that, this pistol takes a different magazine than what you find on a standard 2011 is not really a valid complaint if you start comparing it to arguably everything else that you may have in your safe already. You have a Smith & Wesson, you have a Glock, you have a Sig, they all take different magazines. Nobody complains about it. This does take different magazines, but what I'll tell you that I found with these magazines themselves is the follower and the spring in here seems to have more tension on it. So when you actually are loading these mags, if you're familiar with like an STI or Staccato magazine, they almost have a little bit of a feel like the rounds in there are kind of shaking around. They're not real stiff in there. And therefore, a lot of times in the past, the magazines for STI or Staccato were the Achilles heel of the platform itself. So these magazines, they feel very nice. They have a nice aluminum base pad on there. The interfaces very well with the included mag well that you can remove, and it does come with a pin to replace it if you don't want it. Now, it fits real well on there, no issues. It sticks out just a little bit. Again, this is a standard full-size grip length. So normally it'd be like 17 rounds, but like I said, this is a 20 rounder. So you have that, you get 4 magazines out of the box. Basically, when you buy this pistol, there's nothing you need to get to go to the range and ultimately shoot it and have a good time. Now, some people, if you're not going to use the optics, you know, if you're not going to put a red dot on the gun, essentially. So for ourselves and myself, I always put an optic on my pistols nowadays. If it's got an optics cut, it's going to get a red dot. If you're not going to do that, this does have blacked out iron sights. I'll tell you that blacked out iron sights with no red dot are tougher to shoot than, let's say, one with like a white front dot or a red fiber optic or something like that on there. Now, Bul Armory specifically didn't put a red fiber optic front sight on here because of the ports that are on here. It will actually burn that fiber optic right out of the front sight post. So good on them for thinking ahead, so that therefore it happens, customers aren't complaining and they're saying, oh my gosh, I lost my red fiber optic front post, but that's because it got burned off by the ports that are on here. So these are blacked out, which I prefer. They're a perfect height for the Defender ST. They are a perfect height with the RMR that I put on here, and they'd be fine with the DeltaPoint Pro as well. Now, of course, you can put all your shield optics per se on there. If you want an acro, you do have to get that plate separate. So they do have that, and that's something you'll be able to get. But again, with this pistol, you don't have it. Now, getting into this, there's one thing on here that's a little bit different than the rest of the things you may have seen throughout the year, and that is going to be the all-new Vortex Defender ST green dot. The green dot model on here is identical to what you found on the standard red dot model from the Defender ST with Vortex optics. However, now you can get them with a green dot in the CCW, the ST, and the XL model. There's nothing different on there. It is a very crisp dot, and for somebody like myself who has a slight astigmatism, I actually find the dot to be a little bit more precise. Now, the Tac Pro is just like the regular Tac to an extent. The trigger on here, it has a little bit of take up, a very crisp and defined wall that breaks crisp and clean. I would say it's about 4 pounds. I have not tested it yet, so we're going to do this together, and we'll see exactly what this trigger actually pulls at. Yeah, it's 2 pounds, 6 ounces. Try it one more time. 2 pounds, 7 ounces. Try it one more time. 2 pounds, 2 ounces, so just over 2 pounds, so we'll say about 2.5 pounds here on the trigger. Yeah, it's really good. It's a better feeling trigger than I felt on a Staccato P that we reviewed last year, the Staccato C, the C2, the CS, all of those, this trigger is better than those. In fact, I would actually say that this trigger itself is better than what I found on my OA Defense 2311 full-size Pro and the Compact Pro. It's really good. The weight is fantastic. You know, the reset is good. It's audible. You know, I'm not really too into that. I really could care less. It's short though, which is important because I do an in-flight reset. Now, slide serrations on here, they're aggressive. They're more aggressive than what you find on a Staccato P, which is good. I'd actually prefer them to be more aggressive than less aggressive. Now, the big thing, the barrel itself is a 4 1/4 inch barrel. It is a bull barrel with a flush cut, you know, crown. It actually has an 11-degree target crown, and then it is a single piece guide rod. Now, the guide rod on here, you do need a small pin or a tool to take it down, but it's super simple to do. I mean, you're not taking down your guide rod essentially in the field under combat. So no issues with that, super simple to do. Now, the ports on here, this has their V8 porting system. So you'll see there's like a lightning cut out of the top of the slide. And then with that cut out of there, you then have 4 ports on the left and right side of the gun. It's very effective. The pistol shoots extremely flat. It's really gonna be something for you guys to see as I shoot this pistol today, to see how it performs, because how this thing performs and how it shoots is pretty incredible. The price point that it comes in at, like I said, at $24.50 is not cheap. However, there is nothing about this pistol that feels cheap. The slide, you know, and frame fit is fantastic. There's no wobble in it whatsoever. There's no play in it. How it sounds and how it feels on there, there's no grit. Now the box, there was no grit. The parts on this gun, they're all machine billet parts. They do a great job. I mean, it's for our first impressions for Bul Armory and the Tac Pro, I'm pretty darn impressed because I hadn't had really much of any experience with them in the past because I just didn't really see them. But now that we have them here on the channel, it's pretty damn impressive, I have to say. So what I want to do though, we're going to go out on the range. We're going to let this pistol ultimately speak for itself. What I think is important to show you guys is how it performs, how this thing shoots as far as for being flat and things like that. We have several videos of guns that are similar to this, like the Staccato P, where it's not comped or ported, and you can see that. But like I said, this thing at its price point, and even like I say, if you got the regular tac, which is a couple $100 less than this thing, and it doesn't have the ports, both of them are just a really good feeling pistol. And again, I think it really fills a need for folks that want a ported pistol out of the box. Or even if somebody has a 2011, they don't like how the grip circumference is, it's a noticeable difference when you pick up the Bul Armory Tac Pro. So let's get out on the range, we'll shoot this thing, we'll show you guys how it shoots, I'll run some drills and things like that, and then I'll give you my final impressions of what I really think about this. But at this point, if it's not clear how I truly feel about this thing, you must not have been listening. We're going to start this off. I have two targets set up. I've got one at basically 7 yards. The next one's back there at like 18 almost. And then I have a steel target essentially at 18 as well. So I'm going to do 3 rounds on our first target. There'll be a reload. I'll do 3 rounds on the second target, and then I'll do 3 rounds on the steel. Dropped one on there. 3 good hits on the further one, and then obviously 3 good hits on steel. We'll run it again. Thing shoots good. .576 with a reload in there, not too shabby. Put another reload in. One reload one on the first target here. We'll do 1 shot center mass and 1 shot in the head on the one reload one. Right in the frickin' navel cavity, perfect. Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, this thing is, it's a hell of a good shooting pistol. That's all I can really say. I mean, it just, the trigger is phenomenal. The mag well's good. It has a good, I really like the texturing that they have on the slide stop slide release. It's very easy to get with my support hand, which I've really kind of taught myself or trained myself to do on 2011 or double stack 1911 guns. Especially like my 2311, I shot a lot for the Mammoth Sniper Challenge. I was doing it with that, and I've just kind of transferred over with these, and I found that to be the easiest and quickest way. All right, for this little drill, what we're gonna do is to show recoil. This is gonna be 147 grain Federal American Eagle. It's a round nose flat point. We're gonna do basically a whole mag almost. It's gonna be 6, 6, and 6. So it's 6 in the bottom box, 6 in the center box, and then 6 in the head box. The boxes get progressively smaller, but I'm gonna shoot this at a cadence that ultimately seems, to an extent, like there's really no skipping a beat transitioning. So you gotta push the brakes or push the gas a little bit on this one to accomplish that, but it's something I enjoy doing. And you ultimately just start off aimed out at the bottom box here on our VTAC target. We got 3 rounds left over, the 147 grain. As you can see, the stuff is, you know, the 147s are a little bit spicier, quote unquote, than what you get with the 124s, which you'll see here in a second. Something to make note of too with the gun is during this review, before we started this, I had shot approximately 400 rounds. I have not cleaned the gun. I just lubed it up a little bit. It wasn't all that dirty. It's obviously a little bit dirty today, but that's all right. We're gonna keep giving it hell. We'll see how this thing continues to perform. We're gonna do the same thing I just did with the 147s, but this will be with 124 grain bullets. So we're gonna do 6, 6, and 6. let's look at the target real quick on there. Obviously you can hear the cadence that I'm shooting with that. It's really exciting to see how this pistol performs, right? How this pistol tracks versus some of the other guns I've shot, even comped ones, is very, very linear, right? There's no left and right. Now, what that also tells you is, of course, like your grip is correct. It being up and down, that's merely more or less of what you're seeing, more like what I'm gathering for a sight picture with each one. Like I said, this was before, but like I said, what you're seeing here is the 6, 6, and 6, right? So the group sizes are tight, they're in line and they're linear without a bunch of spread, because like I said, this wasn't a clean target. And then like I said, just how the thing performs and how it shoots is so flat, and how it tracks. You know, for me, I prefer how this performs and how it tracks and how it shoots versus like a Staccato XC. When I shoot the XC, I get a lot of like nose diving or dipping out of the front end of the gun, and I don't feel that with this gun at all. And that's probably why I prefer to shoot. I'm not saying necessarily it shoots flatter, like, right? But for myself, when I shoot this with the ports, I prefer how it shoots. You know, something to make note of though, so people are gonna ask, is do the ports make your dot glass dirty? Yes, they do on this gun. A little bit more than what you would see on a standard comp gun with just a comp off the front side of the gun. But in the same token, you know, are you gonna be shooting that many rounds? We just did 4 mags ultimately so far shooting today on our first string, and on the second one, 4 20-round mags, right? So we did 160 rounds in less than 30 minutes. So yeah, the dot glass is dirty. It's not unusable. It's like shooting occluded, right? It's not that bad. I can still see through it if I need to. And you know, the green dot is very crisp on this new Defender XT. So let's shoot some more. I got another mag loaded up, and I think I actually got an additional one back here with just 3 in it. So we're gonna do 3, reload 3. And we'll do that here on this target here. We'll actually transition and go shoot some steel. We're gonna shoot steel now for the remainder. We have 2 torso C-zone steel. We're at about 15 to 20 yards now. And then we have our plate rack. Now the plate rack, unfortunately, one of our plates fell off after we set it up. So there's just 7 plates on there now. We'll shoot that plate rack after I clean the plate rack, then we'll shoot the steel, the torso stuff. Yeah, I should have about enough rounds. We'll see how it goes. All right, let's see. You know, so far filming today, we have a little over 200 rounds just today, like I said. So now the total round count through the pistol is close to about 600 rounds. I've had one instance where I didn't get slide lock back, and we actually had that today. That's probably shooter induced, most likely, and it's probably from my support hand. However, you know, out of 4 or 5 different range sessions, I haven't experienced that. So to get it one time today, you know, again, that's a shooter induced thing. I don't think that most people will ever have that issue. That's merely just like here on my support side. You know, my hand obviously filled that gap and I leave that thumb up, right? So it's possible it slipped down and just held it down and I didn't get locked back. But outside of that, you know, no malfunction is the thing here. Like, come in here and look at this. You know, it ain't clean, right? Like, anybody look at that gun and tell me that it's clean, right? You know, the overall wear and all that stuff that we're seeing, you know, it's exactly what you would expect for a gun with 600 rounds. Nothing less and nothing more. In fact, it may even be better. And I think it's kind of nice that they actually kind of polish the back side of the striker there. And then like the hammer on there, no extra wear. It's very nice and like skeletonized, which we didn't talk about, but it makes it like a lightweight hammer, you know, good. Like, let's look at that grip sensitivity. So this is your grip safety, right? So obviously without that being depressed, it's not gonna go off. So let's see how much tension it actually takes. So let's just give it like, here's a good like light one-handed grip. Right, that's a light one-handed grip. I mean, look how much I'm pushing that in. That's perfect, right? So like folks, a lot of times with some staccatos, like my C2, I couldn't, like let's say a nice high flagged thumb grip, that wouldn't go off on my pistol because it wasn't sensitized. I would say that will. That's better. And you know, for some folks, like on a looser grip, if you're doing that, it's just not gonna go off. And I'll even like shooting like left-handed on there for me, right? Like I get a high grip, right? It's somewhat loose. You see I'm not putting a bunch of pressure there in my fingers. Come down on the trigger, no issues. So that's something to really make note of. That's really important, like right there. See, like right, it's not going off, but if I come in with like a full grip, right, riding the safety, thumb, no pressure here on my fingers, no issues whatsoever. So that's something to notice if you're somebody that's kind of concerned about having a grip safety on the back, like, you know, the new Staccato AC doesn't have one. But if a grip safety itself is done right and it's sensitized right, you're not gonna have any issues. You know, that if I was to pick something on this gun that is like not my favorite or something I'm not a huge fan of, there's a lot of tension with the magazine release. Is it hard to do? No, I haven't had any issues dropping mags and doing reloads. It's just, it's tight, right? And that's probably a good thing. It's got a good spring. It's also metal. So the gun, there just ain't shit wrong with this, to be honest. You know, and I'm just gonna be frank. The damn thing is done really well. Bul Armory and the Tac Pro is a freaking winner. So let's shoot a few more rounds, but seal of approval on this sucker. What I'm gonna do now is I'm actually just gonna shoot one-handed. When you shoot one-handed, generally speaking, and depending on the type of shooting you're doing, you don't have a super tight grip. So I'm gonna purposely, we'll call it limp wrist it to an extent. So nothing too strong in my grip. I'm gonna, you know, nice and loose, isolate that trigger finger. We're gonna see if this induces a malfunction. I'm just gonna do 5 with my left, or 5 with my right, 5 with my left. The damn thing shoots so well. So, transition to the left side. Yeah, so shoot left-handed there. I didn't get lock back on that one, but we'll see. So far through the gun, you know, we're over 600 rounds, no cleaning. I got another mag here. For good measure, we'll do a good mag dump. She runs. Yeah, let's look at the target real quick so I can show you, right? So actually that whole entire mag in this shot, that was all with that just basically a blowdown right there, left-handed. That was actually up here. I was aiming for the corner, so I can't complain about that. The damn thing just shoots, and really, really well. Guys, the Bul Armory Tac Pro. One sweet pistol. I think that's the best way to ultimately frame it. In its price category, why you would buy a Staccato P unless you just really want to say you have a Staccato, I don't know, right? I mean, unless you don't want a comped gun, which in that case, you can get the Tac model. This thing just shoots so damn well. It's really impressive of how ultimately the ports work and how the slide reciprocates. It's just, there's no extra in it, right? The recoil spring, how it's weighted and all that stuff just feels perfect. I have other guns that do not feel that way, right? This thing is just how the slide tracks and how it feels. It feels like it enhances your shooting ability. It's really how this thing feels. You know, the mag well on the bottom of the gun, all the mags fit really well. It just, overall, that is nice. You know, the grip circumference feels a little bit better than what I'm used to with standard 2011s or double sec 1911s. The optics cut's good. The regular blacked out irons are good. Red dot's been working good on here. The trigger on here is just, it's just money. It's just really, really darn good. The pull weight's perfect, and the serrated, like linear checkering on there is just perfect. I like how it feels. I don't like guns that have basically no texturing or they're not enough, because I like that feel of how it feels on your trigger, especially shooting one-handed. The slide serrations are good, and the gun has performed 100% reliably with all the ammo I've put through it. You know, you could easily carry this thing if you wanted to, especially some of their other models that they have, like the EDC and all that. You know, you could take off the mag well and it'd help out. It's a little bit on the large side for me personally to carry it, but I would have no issue carrying this as far as for, you know, reliability and performance, because I think it is definitely on par with that. You know, if you're somebody that was looking for a duty pistol and you wanted one that was comped or ported, I mean, this thing is really good. The magazines are good. It's really well made. They did a really great job. You know, the wear on this gun, what I'm seeing for as many rounds as I've shot through it, I'm not getting any like wear back here on the beaver tail. The slide and all that stuff looks good. The barrel, you know, it's a really well done gun, and I'm truly impressed. And even more so, I'm happy to say that the Tac Pro from Bul Armory gets the Hunt Fish Shoot 100% seal of approval with no questions asked. I don't have anything bad to say about it, other than, like I said, I wish the magazine release had a little bit less tension. I mean, we're splitting hairs. Outside of that, what more could you ask for? A price tag that the gun feels and shoots like it should cost that much. So guys, until next time, let us know what you think of the Bul Armory Tac Pro.